Another day is here, and you're ready for it. What to wear? Check. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Check. Planning for what's next and how to save for it? That's where Bank of America can help. For your financial to-dos, Bank of America has experts ready to help get you closer to your goals. Get started at one of our local financial centers or 24/7 in our mobile banking app. Find a location near you at bankofamerica.com/talktous. What would you like the power to do? Mobile banking requires downloading the app and is only available for select devices. Message and data rates may apply. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
On the verge of beaming with pride and beating my chest as, what is it? God save the king now these days? Beats out. Is that convincing?
I mean, I suppose if people didn't know you, it might be convincing, but given I do know you, no, not really. We are here today to discuss the second semi-final in Euro 2024. We should mention that today as well, there is Uruguay versus Colombia in the second semi-final of the Copa America. But we are going to focus on the Euros. And Netherlands taking on England at the Westfalenstadion in Dortmund, Karl. So I want to start with this. You were at England versus Switzerland in Dusseldorf. Now, you have watched all of the England matches in this tournament, and you were at that game, so maybe you're better placed than me to decipher this tweet. Now, I'm not going to tell you who sent the tweet. I know you don't operate on Twitter a whole lot anymore, so you might not have seen this tweet. And I don't want to put you in an awkward position by naming the journalist that sent this tweet. But let's just say he once described Roy Hodgson as a broadsheet manager in a tabloid world. So this tweet was sent at half-time in the England game. So much better from England. Saka superb. Foden, Bellingham, Mainu and Konza all good. System working. Just need greater threat from Kane. Xhaka excellent for Switzerland. Does that fall in line with what you witnessed in the first half of England versus Switzerland? Because if it did, I'm wondering if they showed us in Ireland a different game.
Okay, let's break it down, shall we? Read it out bit by bit.
So much better from England.
I would agree. It's a really low bar.
A really low bar. Saka, superb.
No, I don't agree with superb. We'll go into that slightly more detail in a bit.
Foden, Bellingham, Mainu and Konza, all good.
I would agree with half of that.
Konza and Mainu?
Mainu, I thought, was the only one for England all game long capable of change and pace of the game at all.
System working, just need greater threat from Kane.
Working, no. Greater threat from Kane, yes.
The journalist who wrote that is the most England of England men, and I like it was better. It was better than what we'd seen, but it wasn't good by any stretch.
Do you know when Liverpool play Premier League games or whatever, they always try to kick towards the Kop second half, yeah? So if you have a run of games where you lose the toss and you have to attack the Kop in the first half, and then the fourth game in that run, you attack the Kop in the second half, irrespective of any results or scores or anything at all in the game, that's better.
Yeah.
It means nothing, though.
No, it doesn't mean anything.
I know who wrote that, merely because it was being spoken about at halftime, if I'm being perfectly honest. Look, England were better against Switzerland. I think that the shape suited them better. I think that there were a few bits of the formation, let's say, the fact that it's flipped between a 3 and a 4, which allowed them to be a bit more expansive. It allowed them a little bit more width higher upfield. It got a couple of people into different areas, like Bellingham very slightly left channel, Foden very slightly right channel. We can say that's an improvement because of where they picked up the ball and the fact that it was able to release Saka a lot of the time, right? So Saka superb. I don't agree with Saka superb, but Saka was important, and Saka was largely the only penetrative part of the England team. But his final ball was disappointing. A lot of the time, I think that can be down to the fact there's no runners into the box, no movement from Kane in the box, nobody really going with him, if we're being honest. But even so, some of the time it was just like a blind pass or an overhit chip or whatever. But still, he was getting past his man. He was a threat to opening up Switzerland. So I think it's fine to note him, but superb is obviously about 8 levels too far for what he was. I mean, the thing I find really, really baffling with England, and it was very noticeable against Switzerland as well, is that they play at the same pace regardless of the stage of the game, other than obviously the last 5 minutes and the last 2 games where they've been chasing a goal. But like whether they're in sustained build-up play or whether they've been under pressure for a while and now they're trying to play their way out, or they're trying to counter-attack. Now, all of those things, when teams do it, should be kind of different. But England do them all the same way. Like their counter-attack pace is the same as their build-up play pace. It's short passes to feet, into little spaces, into the little half pockets, but there's no direct runners. There's nobody going beyond the forward. There's nobody in behind the defence, and the balls don't go there anyway. Like, it's just bizarre. It's like, I get they want to play out from the back, and that's fine, and I get that they want to dominate matches and have possession, and that's really good, but the next bit isn't there. I don't get it. There's like quite a bit of speed in some of the lineups, none of which has been utilised. And all of the build-up play, all of the attempts at chance creation, because England have been really poor at chance creation in this tournament, are all the same way. Like trying to open up passes, open up gaps between third centre-back and wing-back or second centre-back and full-back, and trying to do those little triangles and all the rest of it, but without the actual runs. It's really weird.
It is very weird. And it was a very weird showing from England in Game 5 to change your system. Supposedly because Kieran Trippier wasn't fit. And then all of a sudden Kieran Trippier is fit to play. And you're still moving to a shape that you haven't played in a couple of years. I thought it was bizarre that England tried to line up in that shape. I thought the use of certain players was odd. I thought they struggled to progress the ball. I mean, Mainoo's good on the half turn, and he carries the ball quite well, and he's good at linking play. But he doesn't have a bag of passes to his name. Like, he can't sit in midfield and dictate. That's not his game.
No.
And it feels like that's what England need, is someone that you can have in midfield who's forward-thinking, who's going to receive the ball in the half-turn and immediately play it through a gap and fire you forward into an advanced position. And while Mainoo tried to do it, he was doing it carrying the ball. And as you said, England don't play with any real pace. They don't play with any urgency. And as he was carrying the ball forward, the Swiss defenders were just streaming back into position. And all of a sudden, what could have been a dangerous situation is now Switzerland in their set half-field defensive structure, which England could not break down.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the reason why I think Mainoo is fine to have in, to be honest, because it may well be that you need another midfielder in there who's going to make those passes you're talking about, but there isn't anybody who is making any change of game at all at the minute. Like, everything is to feet. Everything is sort of played back inside themselves or back across the line, or there's nothing in behind. There's nothing to change the angle of play. There's not really any, like, even 1-2s with a third man runner beyond. Like, the most basic of any kind of build-up play you can basically have at top-level football is just 3 people involved. One sets it, one passes it, and the third one's running. And England don't do that. They don't do any of that. So I don't mind Mainu being in there because all the rest of that stuff is lacking. And in terms of the formation, although obviously some of the parts did not quite fit and it was a weird sort of set in some terms, I also don't mind the fact that he did it if he was going to use the same 11, because you had to change something there. Like, England couldn't have just gone and done the exact same game plan as they did in the 16s. They lost.
Yeah, that is true. So England are at this point now in the semi-finals, having won 1 game. Because they beat, they won 2, but they beat Slovakia in
they won 1 game in 20 minutes,
1 game in 90 minutes. That's the first game against Serbia. They're yet to score more than 1 goal in a game. What I will say is that was an incredibly impressive collective of 5 penalties that they took.
Magical.
Very, very impressive, very calm, a lot of belief. Whereas with the Swiss, I knew as Akanji walked forward he was missing. I knew he was missing. And it's one of the worst penalties you'll ever see. And Amdoni looked like he was about to soil himself as well. The Swiss didn't have the same kind of confidence that England had walking forward.
I thought Zekandar was going to sky his penalty, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I thought he would panic and just hit it as hard as he could and put it 15 feet over the bar. A Dejan Lovren special. But England have gotten to the semi-final, Karl. Like France in semi-final 1, England have gotten here without a single game in which they've played well. Like, without a single game in which you've watched it and thought, that's a team that could win this competition. And I don't know that they can get any further unless that changes, because while the Dutch haven't been great, they did play pretty well in their opening game against Poland after going behind. They played pretty well in that incredibly dull 0-0 game with France. They did not play well against Austria, it must be pointed out, but they were really good against Romania. And I thought once they went behind against the Turks, they started to play their football and look a bit more like a cohesive unit. But yet, despite that, and despite the fact that I think they've played a better level of competition than England have, I still don't really have any faith in them either.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I'll be honest, it might be a little bit harsh on them, not on Netherlands, but the team I'm going to talk about. But I also kind of discount the result and style of play, sort of the level of chance creation dominance against Romania in the last 16. Romania played really well in that first game and then basically not again afterwards, like at any point. So I don't really know how much we can take from the win over them in terms of how good that means the Netherlands are. I think they've improved as the tournament's gone on. That's the first thing I will say. I don't think England have. I don't think Portugal did. I don't think France have. I don't think Germany improved. They were already at a high level, but they didn't improve. Netherlands have kind of fixed a couple of their issues as the tournament's gone on. I don't think they're fixed, but they're better. And they've improved them, let's say. Midfield now for a couple of games has been Reinders and Schouten, which is obviously a better version of what they had at the beginning. This insistence of keep bringing on Joey Vim is interesting and admirable in a way, I suppose, but it's going to cost them again. At some point, if he keeps doing it, it's almost impossible that it won't, just because confidence and form and all those things, they last for more than 45 minutes, I think there's basically 2 things that Netherlands have to decide on for the England game in terms of their lineup, whereas I think England could feasibly still change formation, still play any 2 of 4 defensive players, and could still change a midfielder or attack a midfielder again. I think Netherlands are a lot closer to where they're going to end up than England are so far.
Yeah, so we know there'll be one change to the England team anyway, because Mark Wehi will come back in.
Maybe.
I can't see a world in which he doesn't start.
You can't see a world. You can't see where he starts Trippier left back and Shaw left centre back in a 3.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Because I can. Because he's going to want Luke Shaw playing if England get to the final. and he cannot play Luke Shaw in the final if he hasn't started in the semi.
I hadn't even thought of that. That is a very strong possibility. I mean, I'm wondering if he just goes back to the back four and plays Walker, Stones, Guehi, and Shaw, which I think is what he came into the tournament planning to play. And if he feels like that gives him a ball player at left back in Shaw, and then he can go with the Rice, Mainu, Bellingham midfield three, and then he just goes back to the original front three of Saka right, Foden left. I wonder if Shaw's return means he goes back to what he came into the tournament expecting to play. Well, he didn't expect to play Mainu. Well, maybe he did eventually, because I don't think he ever fully committed to the Trent thing. But I wouldn't be surprised if Shaw starts left back and Trippier is the one who's left out.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Yeah, I mean, that's very, very definitely a strong possibility. Like I said, I think it still could be any two or even three or four, like Konsa, Shaw and Trippier. I think he did want to play the 4-2-3-1, but even with Shaw in, although it's an improvement on Trippier, it doesn't solve some of those issues we've spoken about with England. It doesn't solve runners in behind. It maybe solves an overlapper, but that's not going to be everything. That's not the be-all and end-all. It doesn't solve enough in terms of sort of people to play off Kane, or if Kane's dropping in, then people going behind him. I agree that Trippier will be the one who ends up coming out of the team. And, you know, at this stage, semi-final, you could say, well, that's harsh, but actually been crap, so it's not. I just don't think he's played well at all. I think probably the Switzerland game was his best of the tournament, but that's mostly positionally, let's say, rather than anything technical related. I do think he, did well to get quite high as much as he did, especially in the first half, but it's not really enough to keep him in the team, is it? And Southgate has not sort of determined his own tournament, but he's put a lot on taking Shaw, who was injured, who was always going to miss at least 2 games. He's spoken about him being the best left back in the world before, like 3-4 months ago, something like that. So now he's ready, he has to play. And feasibly, he's only going to get maybe an hour out of him in the semi-final. If that's the case, he has to start him, obviously, because you can't risk bringing him on at half-time and then needing to sub him again if it goes to extra time or something like that. So I think it'll be a back three again. I think it'll be Gay. He comes back in for Ezri Konsa, who I've seen conflicting opinions on his game. You can tell me what you thought. I didn't think he was particularly stand out for England. I've seen some people say he was like one of the best players. I personally didn't think so.
I thought he was okay.
Yeah, nothing.
Didn't think, Switzerland played one up front. That it wasn't like he was dealing with constant waves of attacks or runners in behind him or different things. He did okay. He did what was needed. And I like Ezri Konsa. I'm a big fan of Ezri Konsa. I've been, banging the drum for him for years to be in the England squad.
Well, I did think it would be as a right-sided centre-back alternative rather than the left of 3 or at left-back. But there we go. That's the world we're in.
Exactly. And you just know that if Tyrone Mings hadn't gotten injured last year, it would have been him instead. No England players suspended for this game. And if I'm right, yellow cards are now wiped.
Correct, yeah. No further suspensions from bookings, but obviously you can get sent off or do Mary Demirel type stuff and get suspended for that as well.
Yeah. And of course, Jude has a suspended 1-game ban hanging over him, so he needs to be on his best behaviour as well, because you just don't know what it'll take to trigger UEFA to say, well, that's you out of the final. Likewise, the Dutch, nobody suspended for this one, so they can all play with a bit of confidence and a bit of freedom. Virgil, Aki and Xavi Simons and Wout Weghorst were all booked in the semi-final, but that all resets for all of them.
quarters, yeah.
The Dutch, or the quarterfinal. The Dutch team, Karl, like it's the defense has been very settled. Verbruggen, Dumfries, De Vrij, Van Dijk, and Aki. I think that left side in particular, Virgil and Aki, is exceptionally strong. The midfield pairing is like you mentioned, where it's chopped and changed, but it does seem to have settled on Schouten and Reinders.
Yeah.
And that's a pairing that is working for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then Xavi Simons in that 10 spot. And obviously Memphis and Cody have been there. He seems happy with them. And Steven Bergwijn has started the last 2 games and been brought off at half-time both.
Yeah.
Do you think he starts this one, or do you think that's where maybe we see a change for the Dutch?
So this is obviously the one position, but I think there's 3 options here for them. Bergwijn starting, I'm not really sure what the idea is on bringing him off at halftime twice, but in that first knockout game when he did start there, that was his first start. It was firstly to give them a bit of control, like with his work rate, because he does have good work rate compared to like some of the other forward options they've got. Help them win back ball quickly and play a little bit narrow, not always really wide, but not coming in as a 10 either. So it was really to free up Dumfries down that right-hand side. And I thought that worked for them well, because that's where you want Denzel Dumfries. It's not defending, and it's not like, in the sort of central midfield areas. You want him getting forward as far and as high as possible. So that was good. They were better attacking-wise when Marlon came on, and obviously he scored twice. I thought he might start just on the back of that, but Koeman stuck with Bergwijn. But then the change for the quarterfinal, I think, gives him another really different option for this game. He's spoken about Wout Weghorst a couple of times now this tournament and said, obviously he's a bit of a game changer for them. He's completely different to everything that they have in the rest of the squad, which is correct. He also said that he's their most English forward. So not to read too much into that, but because of the qualities that he has, where he says he gives defenders problems because of that, it's absolutely an option for him to start with Weghorst and then Memphis as the 10 and Xavi Simons back out on the right-hand side where he was before. That's one real option for him. I don't think he'll do it to start, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see that at some point in the game, even if it's not another half-time substitution. Obviously, he could start Bergwijn, Simons and Gakpo behind Memphis, or he could start Donyell Malen, who's got the couple of goals. If he wants to really start fast, he might start Malen and go the other way around. I think it would be... Was it
weird that he didn't bring Malen on at all in the Turkey game?
Maybe a little bit like when they were chasing the game, but he did make a point after the Turkey game of saying that it was Weghorst who came on at half-time because he noticed how much they were dropping off, basically. Turkey were dropping off and defending really, really deep. So he just wanted someone to be right there. Memphis obviously drifts around and comes to get the ball and runs short. Gakpo starts left and cuts in and does the same thing every time, sort of thing. So he did want someone right up there with him, basically. So that's completely viable. Later on in the game, I was surprised. Later, when he brought on Frimpong and who came on with him?
Xerxes,
that's right, yeah. I thought then that was probably the moment to bring on Marlon. Just let him run, basically, and just be a counter-attack in the last few minutes of the game. Fine to not, I suppose, and maybe you get just a little bit of involvement on a couple of other fringe players or whatever, but it was a little bit odd. I think if it had gone on much longer before the equaliser, he would have been next onto the pitch, basically. Because a few minutes after that, it was Van der Ven and I think that was Veerman when he came on.
Veerman, yeah.
And then obviously really quickly it was 2-1. I think if it had gone on any more than another 2-3 minutes, that would have been Marlon time, but can't argue with his in-game changes. I know Koeman's not the favourite of everybody and he's maybe not the most expansive, but I think his in-game changes for Netherlands and just changes in general along the tournament have actually been pretty good.
No, I do agree. It's just, he comes on against Romania, he gets the 2 goals.
It was weird he didn't start, let's be honest. It was obviously a really strong tactical decision to play Bergwijn from the start and just tell him, run people into the ground, give absolutely everything 45, we'll change.
That's it. That may have been the pre-planned change, was, like you said, to bring Malen on at half-time and keep both of them really fresh by only giving them the half and then the game dictated that it needed Weghorst.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to this game, Karl. I think this could be. Yeah, I think it could be a really interesting one.
Yeah.
The thing here is, if Luke Shaw starts, right? Luke Shaw, I thought, was okay when he came on against the Swiss. He had a couple of really good defensive moments, but I also thought he looked a little bit cumbersome on the turn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he looks like a fella that hasn't played
since
a
February.
whole lot of football in the last 12 months.
Yeah, hasn't played since mid-February.
And, like, wasn't playing a ton before that either. Like, he had a very stop-start season with injuries and whatever else. I do wonder, especially if he does go Trippier left wing back, which, by the way, I mean, you're playing Saka as a wing back and you're going to play him on the right and you're going to just ignore Trent entirely. Make it make sense to me. But if he's going to play Trippier at left wing back and he's going to play Shaw as a left side centre back, which I do think you're right, I do think that could happen. It just strikes me as the pace and power of Dumfries and Bergwijn, Dumfries and Malen, Dumfries and Frimpong could really, really trouble that side for England. And England's real pace in defence is on the other side, in Kyle Walker. And if he has to start drifting across because Stones is drifting across, and we know that Saka is not going to track the whole way back. He's not a comfortable player in that right-sided defensive position. If Cody Gakpo's cutting in field into space on switches where Kyle Walker has had to move across, that is going to open up opportunities for Cody to get shots off or to pick out crosses. So if England do go with that Shaw-Trippier left-sided pairing, I could see them getting absolutely rinsed. Stones having to cover across constantly, which leaves Kyle Walker also covering across into centralised areas to pick up whoever the 9 is. And it could leave big opportunities for the Netherlands coming in off their left if they can get the ball shifted across into feet to Cody, stepping in off that left wing.
Yeah, I think all of that is very, very much a possibility that we see multiple times. I think Netherlands are more liable to go forward and more likely to counterattack at pace than than every single opponent England played so far. Let's call it what it is. Switzerland didn't attack at pace. Slovenia didn't attack. Denmark had sustained pressure. None of them have attacked England at speed. Netherlands will do. So that will be a big change. The other thing is, if they play the 3 tilting to a 4, Walker as the tucked-in man is dreadful at following his man in at the far post. And Cody Gakpo that we're seeing here is very, very different to the Cody Gakpo we've seen at Anfield for the last 12 months or so. He's attacking everything. He is first to everything, defensively and offensively. The goal that he scored but didn't really get awarded for against Turkey was him doing exactly that. And it was also exactly that Walker was not doing when Switzerland scored, obviously.
Yeah.
So you cannot be surprised that we see an exact replica of those 2 goals merged into one in this game. At least a big chance from it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is a huge weakness in Kyle Walker's game. He has a number of weaknesses, but defending the back post, because he's not the smartest player in the world. He's not the most aware player in the world. And he'll wander into roughly the position you'd want him in, with absolutely no awareness of what's behind him. I quite fancy the Netherlands' chances here, Karl. England are not attacking well. The Netherlands are pretty strong defensively. I know they've conceded more goals than England, but if you stack the Netherlands up man for man against this England team, I'm taking a lot more of that Netherlands defence than I'm taking of the England defence. I also think both Shooting and Reinders, they're not as good as Declan Rice, not nearly as good as him as a footballer. They're a lot more comfortable receiving the ball on the half turn and bringing it forward than Rice, who always receives the ball square and his first touch is always bringing it back towards his own goal. This illusion he has of creating space for himself to turn, and if he feels any kind of pressure at all, he's giving it backwards. If the Netherlands push up and pressure both him and Mainu, because Mainu can be a little bit loose with his possession. I think that's somewhere where England might have problems. And we saw against the Swiss, who did exactly that. Freuler and Xhaka pushed up and pushed up and pushed up. And Rice got panicky and kept playing it back to the centre-backs. And next thing we're seeing Jude Bellingham coming 40 yards deeper to try and get the ball and get England progressing. If you start doing that against the Netherlands, you know Virgil is going to step that defensive line right up to the halfway line. And England don't have the pace to punish that in behind. And if the Netherlands pin England into their own half, the same way the Danes did, the Netherlands have the players to break England down, which Denmark didn't have.
Yeah, for sure. So you predicting that then, Netherlands win?
I'm going Netherlands to win 2-1. I don't think there's more than one goal in this England team.
I'm going the opposite scoreline for one reason, really. I think Netherlands will play a lot quicker than any of the teams England have faced. And I think in turn that makes England play a lot quicker. I think even if they're not intending to, the spaces that will open up in this game by Netherlands countering and England being able to in turn counter is going to make this game a lot more open than any we've seen at the tournament. Like, completely out of character for England's matches so far. I can see this one getting away from the control of both teams. Not for the whole game, obviously. England are going to dictate quite long spells of absolutely irrelevant possession, I would say. But there will be parts where Netherlands have the ball and Netherlands go forward and England are forced to play quicker and forced to counter more just because that's what Netherlands are doing. And I can see them getting caught up in that kind of game and going at them. And even though it's not what they plan, will benefit them. And I think that England will create more through this Netherlands midfield if it's opened up than Netherlands will do against England's 3.
Do you think, so you're of the opinion that the England midfield defensively is stronger, which I think, is fair enough. You've got Rice in there. Mainu's pretty good as an on-ball defensive player. But I don't think Jude or Foden exploits the space behind all that well.
No.
And I think Xavi Simons and Memphis exploit that space very well. So my feeling on it, if it does become that kind of basketball game, I can see England trying to get the ball out in a rush and just consistently turning the ball back over. I don't know that England are going to be... like you said earlier, England are counter-attacking at walking pace.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they're going to be able to shake that, even if the Netherlands are playing a hurry-up type of game. And I could see England, if they do try and speed things up, getting quite lax with their possession, with their control. The Netherlands stepping on, being aggressive, taking the ball back, and catching England in transition. I do think it's a fascinating game. I actually think it's a more interesting game than the other semi-final.
Yeah, the other semi-final should be maybe higher technical quality and like a more cagey, tense, exciting, that kind of exciting. But this one, I think, might actually be way more open and way more... It's open, that's the best way to say it. You can't necessarily say this team's definitely better, this team's definitely going to win. Like, individually, England have better attackers. Individually, Netherlands have better defenders. Collectively, Netherlands are playing better than England are, but England are defending better than Netherlands are. Like, it's a very, very mixed game, this one. I don't necessarily think the tournament so far tells us too much about what happens in the final score.
That's fair. That is very fair. This is match 50 of these Euros, and obviously the winner of this faces the winner of Spain-France in match 51, which will be on Saturday. Saturday or Sunday? Saturday.
Finals on Sunday.
Sunday. Yeah, Sunday, sorry. Sunday at 8 p.m. I don't know why I thought it was Saturday. I think it's going to be fun, Karl. I think we've got not necessarily the semi-finals that we deserve, but I think certainly semi-finals that should serve us up 2 interesting games. One a chess match and one that could be a basketball game.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think they're really, really intriguing matchups in totally different ways. And hopefully that in turn means whichever of the 4 gets to the final, it should still be watchable in some regard.
Yeah, agreed. Unless it's France versus England. in which case it's going to be the most dour 120 minutes leading to a penalty shootout. Hopefully that's not the final. Right, we will be back tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.